Most people don't lose money because they invest badly. They lose money because they invest out of order. That sounds like a small distinction, almost trivial. But over a lifetime, it becomes one of the most expensive mistakes people make. You see it everywhere. Someone is excited about stocks, crypto, ETFs, maybe even options. They follow market news, watch price charts, open investing apps every day. Meanwhile, a credit card balance is quietly compounding at over 20% interest. An emergency fund doesn't exist. A retirement match is going unused. And some of the most powerful tools available to ordinary people, tax advantages designed specifically to build wealth, are ignored completely. It's like pouring water into a bucket with holes in the bottom and wondering why it never fills. What makes this especially frustrating is that building wealth is not primarily about what you invest in. It's about when and in what order you deploy your money. The sequence matters more than the strategy. Get the order wrong, and even good investments struggle to make progress. Get the order right, and average investments begin to work surprisingly well. According to Federal Reserve data updated through 2025, roughly 1/3 of U.S. adults have no emergency savings at all. The median emergency fund sits at around $500, less than many monthly car payments. And that figure has declined in recent years despite rising nominal incomes. At the same time, revolving credit interest rates remain historically high, with average credit card APRs exceeding 20%. Yet people still ask whether they should invest in individual stocks or cryptocurrency. That disconnect is the core problem. There is a smarter sequence for investing your money, one that quietly saves tens of thousands of dollars over time, reduces financial stress, and accelerates long-term independence. It isn't exciting, it doesn't go viral on social media, but it works because it aligns math, psychology, and incentives in the right order. Before a single dollar goes into the market, the first step is stability. An emergency fund is not about returns, it is about control. Without cash reserves, every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. A car repair, a medical bill, or a short job interruption forces you to make decisions under stress. And stressed decisions are almost always expensive. You sell investments at the wrong time. You borrow at the worst rates. You prioritize speed over quality. Behavioral finance research consistently shows that people with even modest cash buffers make significantly better long-term decisions. A Vanguard study found that households with as little as $2,000 in accessible emergency savings scored over 20% higher on financial well-being metrics than those with none. That boost was larger than almost any other single financial variable measured. $2,000 is not life-changing money, but the psychological effect of knowing you are not one surprise away from panic is enormous. Traditional advice often recommends 3 to 6 months of expenses, which is directionally correct, but overwhelming for many people. A more practical approach is progressive. Start with your first $1,000. That covers most minor shocks, then build toward 1 month of expenses. Once that milestone is reached, continue toward 3 months, adjusting based on job stability, health, and income variability. This fund does not go into the stock market. It does not chase yield. Its job is not growth. Its job is preventing forced mistakes. This next part is where most people think they are being smart, but quietly fall behind. Once that safety net exists, the next step becomes non-negotiable, eliminating high-interest debt. Any debt charging more than roughly 8% annually is mathematically hostile to wealth building in today's environment. Credit card debt, in particular, is devastating. With rates above 20%, carrying balances while investing elsewhere makes no sense. The guaranteed return from paying off that debt exceeds the expected return of nearly any mainstream investment after taxes and volatility. Paying down a 22% credit card balance is equivalent to earning a risk-free 22% return. That beats almost every professional investor on earth. The most efficient method is straightforward. List your debts by interest rate. Pay the minimums on all balances. Direct every extra dollar to the highest rate debt first. This approach, often called the debt avalanche, minimizes total interest paid and accelerates progress. Some people prefer paying off smaller balances first for psychological motivation, and that can be valid, but the mathematical advantage of prioritizing interest is clear. Almost everyone understands this step. Almost no one actually commits to it long enough for the math to work. There is, however, one important exception to the rule about eliminating debt before investing, and it matters enough to become the next step in the sequence: employer retirement matching. If your employer offers a match, contributing enough to receive the full match should happen even before high-interest debt is fully eliminated. The reason is simple. Matching contributions represent an immediate, guaranteed return, often 50 to 100%, before the money is even invested. For example, a 50% match on 6% of salary produces an instant 50% return. No credit card interest rate can compete with that. Even with vesting schedules, the long-term math almost always favors capturing the match, provided you understand the conditions. The key is moderation. Contribute only enough to secure the full match, then redirect additional cash back toward debt elimination. This combination, emergency fund, high-interest debt reduction, and employer matching, creates the foundation. Without it, investing is fragile. With it, progress becomes durable. Once the foundation is secure, the focus shifts to tax optimization, and this is where many people quietly lose decades of compounding without realizing it. Tax-advantaged accounts exist for a reason. They allow money to grow with less friction. Every dollar not lost to taxes has more time and capital to compound. Over long horizons, this difference becomes enormous. Individual retirement accounts are typically the next priority. Compared to many employer plans, IR as often offer broader investment choices and significantly lower fees. Expense ratios matter far more than most people realize. A difference of 1% annually can translate into tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars over a lifetime. For 2025 and into 2026, IRA contribution limits allow meaningful sheltering of income, with additional catch-up provisions for those over 50. The choice between traditional and Roth accounts depends on current versus future tax expectations. Traditional accounts reduce taxes today, but create taxable income later. Roth accounts require paying taxes now, but allow tax-free withdrawals in retirement. Since predicting future tax policy is inherently uncertain, many high-level planners advocate tax diversification, holding both account types to preserve flexibility. If you have access to a health savings account, the strategy becomes even more powerful. HSAs are one of the most underutilized tools in personal finance. They offer three distinct tax advantages: deductible contributions, tax-free growth, and tax-free withdrawals for qualified medical expenses. No other account combines all three. For individuals with high deductible health plans and manageable medical costs, HSAs can function as a stealth retirement account. Paying current medical expenses out of pocket while allowing HSA funds to remain invested creates a pool of tax-free capital for future healthcare needs, one of the largest and most predictable expenses in retirement. Data from Fidelity and the Employee Benefit Research Institute shows that the average retiring couple will spend well over $300,000 on healthcare over retirement, and that number is projected to rise faster than general inflation through 2026. An HSA, properly used, can dramatically reduce that burden. This is where income growth actually starts working for you, not against you, and almost nobody explains it this way. After maximizing IRA and HSA contributions, returning to employer plans beyond the match becomes the next logical step. At this stage, a significant portion of income may already be sheltered from current taxation, allowing compounding to work more efficiently. Only after these steps are complete does investing in taxable accounts make sense. Taxable accounts are not bad. They are flexible. They allow early retirement planning, bridge funding, home purchases, and estate strategies such as step-up in basis. But they are inefficient compared to tax-advantaged vehicles. Dividends are taxed, capital gains create drag. Over decades, the difference between taxable and tax-advantaged growth can exceed hundreds of thousands of dollars on identical contributions. Used correctly, taxable accounts complement, not replace, retirement vehicles. Now pause and picture a common scenario. A 35-year-old professional with 10 to 12 years of experience, solid performer, no drama, started at a modest salary and worked steadily upward. On paper, everything looks fine. But adjusted for housing, food, insurance, and healthcare, life feels tighter than it did a decade ago. He does not feel broke. He feels stuck. That is the most dangerous zone because nothing feels urgent enough to force change. Most people hear this and still do nothing. That is why they stay stuck. Imagine waking up at 45. Same job, same habits, same financial structure. Another decade passed quietly. Raises arrived. Expenses arrived faster. Nothing collapsed, but nothing meaningfully changed either. Regret does not arrive as panic. It arrives as the realization that you waited too long to put structure around your money. I have seen this moment play out again and again. The frustration is never about a single bad decision. It is about years of small, reasonable choices made without a system. Even if you feel late to this matters. Starting at 40 is not failure. Starting at 50 is not failure. The only real mistake is continuing without structure once you see the pattern. Money does not reward perfection. It rewards alignment. A late start with the right order often outperforms an early start with chaos. This is where wealth actually comes from, and almost nobody frames it this way. Treat your financial life like a portfolio, a skill asset that increases earning power across industries, an income asset that scales or compounds, a network asset that creates access before opportunities are public, and an optionality asset, the ability to walk away without panic. Systems that compound are diversified. Systems that stagnate are concentrated risk. The power of this approach is not in the exact percentages or account names. It is in the philosophy. Wealth is built through repeatable decisions, not dramatic moves. If full adoption is not realistic right now, that is normal. Start imperfectly. 5% saved can become 10. 75% expenses can move towards 65. Direction matters more than precision. As income grows, the structure scales. Raises strengthen every category instead of disappearing into higher spending. This is how wealth builds quietly over time without constant willpower. The difference compounds faster than most people expect. Someone who assigns roles to money, reduces friction, protects downside, and stays inside a system often ends up in a radically different position within 5 to 10 years, compared to someone who stays reactive and hopeful, not because they are smarter, but because fewer mistakes are allowed to compound. The system does not trap people with chains. It traps them with comfort, routine, and quiet assumptions. In a world moving into 2026 with higher interest rates, persistent inflation pressure, rising healthcare costs, and increasing tax complexity, structure matters more than ever. Do the boring steps first. Get the order right. Your future self will not thank you with applause. It will thank you with options, resilience, and freedom. Comment the word order if you are done investing randomly and ready to build wealth intentionally. That one word tells me who is building structure and who is still hoping. Subscribe if you want calm, practical money strategy every week instead of noise. And like this video so it reaches someone who is working hard, investing early, and still wondering why it does not feel like progress. Thanks for watching.